my fiancée paid tribute to all her ex-boyfriends during our wedding. That night I discovered that the love of my life was also the biggest disaster in my story. I thought nothing could ruin the most important day of my life, until I realized the person I loved the most was about to expose me in a way no one could ever imagine. Even now, when I think about it, my stomach turns. And the worst part? None of the guests realized what was happening until it was already too late. I'm Norman, I'm 29 years old, and my ex, Geraldine, is 27. We were together for 3 years and, in theory, we were living the best moment of our relationship, or at least that's what I believed. We met at a small gathering with friends. She was the cousin of a co-worker of mine. From the very beginning, Geraldine seemed like an extremely cheerful woman, with an energy that lit up any room. She was social, fun, and always had a contagious smile. I, on the other hand, am much calmer and more reserved, the type who prefers to listen before speaking. Maybe that's exactly why we worked. We were different, but we complemented each other well. During the first years of our relationship, everything went smoothly. We didn't have major crises or serious fights. Geraldine was affectionate, attentive, and talked a lot about the future. Early on, she began bringing up the topic of marriage. At first, I thought she was joking or daydreaming, but as time went by, she became more persistent. She said it was time to think about something serious, that she didn't want to keep wasting years without a clear direction. I didn't feel pressured, but I admit I was surprised. I always believed marriage should happen when both people feel it's the right time. Even so, Geraldine talked about it with growing enthusiasm. One day, out of nowhere, she showed me a list of possible venues for the ceremony. I remember laughing and saying, "I haven't even proposed yet." She looked at me seriously and replied, "But you will." And she was right. Months later, during a dinner with her parents, I proposed to Geraldine. There were no fireworks, no cinematic setting, just an intimate dinner and a ring. Still, she cried with emotion. It was one of the most sincere and happiest moments I can remember. From that point on, everything revolved around the preparations. We got married a year later. Geraldine wanted a big wedding, with lots of guests, live music, and an elegant venue. I preferred something simpler, more intimate, but I agreed I wanted to see her happy. In practice, the planning was chaos. Time flew, the budget exploded every week, and we argued about the smallest details, the color of the flowers, the guest list, the choice of the band. Even so, I have to admit the final result was impressive. The venue was decorated with warm lights, white and gold flower arrangements, and an arch of roses at the entrance that looked straight out of a romantic movie. Everything seemed perfect. A few weeks before the ceremony, we had a strange conversation, although at the time I didn't think much of it. We were at home reviewing the guest list. Geraldine was crossing out and adding names, until suddenly she said, "Hey, would you mind if I invited some of my ex-boyfriends?" I thought she was joking. I laughed and asked if she was being serious. She confirmed with total ease. Yes. Some of them were an important part of my life. I haven't seen them in years, but it would be nice to close cycles, don't you think? I went silent for a few seconds. "No, Geraldine," I replied. "It doesn't make sense to invite your exes to our wedding." She shrugged, trying to look innocent. "Oh, it's not that big of a deal. I just thought it would be a mature gesture. Besides, if you want, you can invite your exes too." I shook my head. "I'm not doing that, and I'd prefer if you didn't either." She sighed, muttered okay, and the subject died there. Or at least, that's what I thought. The wedding day came sooner than we expected. I remember waking up that morning with a mix of nervousness and excitement. My friends were with me at the hotel, helping with the preparations. They joked around, we toasted with beer, and talked about how fast time had gone by. Geraldine, meanwhile, was in another room with her bridesmaids. I didn't see her until the ceremony began. When she walked in, the whole place fell silent. She wore a long, elegant lace dress with a veil that fell over her shoulders. She looked beautiful undeniably. She walked toward me with a radiant smile, and in that moment I felt that everything had been worth it. The altar was decorated with white flowers, soft lights, and a light perfume in the air. The guests were seated in perfectly lined rows, while a string quartet played softly in the background. It was a dreamlike setting. During the ceremony, we exchanged vows. Hers were long and emotional. She said that I had been her calm after the storm, that with me she had learned what true love was, and that she wanted to grow old by my side. I admit that I got emotional. She was crying as she spoke, and when it was my turn, I tried to keep my voice steady, even though inside I was just as moved. After the vows came the signing of the registry, the applause, the hugs, the photos, and the traditional throwing of rice. Everything turned out perfect. The reception was also a success: delicious food, lively music, people laughing and dancing. I felt relieved, happy that everything had gone so well after months of stress. Even my parents, who are usually more reserved, were having fun. I remember my mother coming up to me and whispering in my ear, "You can tell she loves you. Just look at the way she looks at you." And she was right. Geraldine radiated happiness. During our first dance, she couldn't stop smiling. She had that look, a mixture of tenderness and triumph, like she was living exactly the moment she had always dreamed of. We danced slowly while everyone watched us. I felt like nothing could ruin that moment, until something did. While we were dancing, she leaned toward me and whispered in my ear, "Love, I need to do something. I hope you don't mind." Before I could ask what she meant, she let go of my hands and ran toward one of her bridesmaids. She looked nervous, but also excited. I thought it was some kind of surprise for the guests, maybe a song, a speech, something symbolic. I stood there in the middle of the dance floor, watching as her friend dragged out a projector and connected it to a laptop. Geraldine grabbed the microphone. Her voice came out firm and clear, echoing through the speakers. "Attention, everyone," she said, smiling. The chatter gradually died down, and all eyes turned to her, curious. "I want to say a few words. Today is one of the happiest days of my life." She looked at me, and for a moment I felt tenderness. "I love you, Norman. I want to live with you until we're 80, in a house full of children and grandchildren." There were some light applause and a few laughs. But then she continued, "I also think it's worth mentioning the people who were part of our story, and who, in some way, helped bring us here today." Some guests applauded again, others murmured in approval. I smiled, thinking she was going to honor her parents or a deceased relative. But something inside me tightened. I can't explain it, just a sudden feeling, a discomfort spreading in my chest. The projector was turned on. A white light lit up an empty wall. On the screen appeared a black background with golden letters. In the center, the title read, "A tribute to my ex-boyfriends." For a moment, I thought it was a joke. I waited for everyone to laugh and for her to say it was just something to break the ice. But no one laughed. The room was filled with confused murmurs. I froze. My smile vanished instantly. Geraldine stood there, holding the microphone, looking proud, almost glowing, while the title remained projected on the wall. Some guests exchanged puzzled looks. Others covered their mouths, holding back nervous laughter. I felt a knot in my stomach. I didn't understand what was happening or why she was doing that. I remember with painful clarity the moment the first image changed. On the screen appeared the photo of a young guy, smiling, wearing a school uniform. Below, in cursive letters, it said, "Miguel." Geraldine looked at the image with a nostalgic smile and spoke into the microphone with a sweet voice, like someone remembering an old love. "This is Miguel," she said. "We only dated for 6 months, but he was the one who taught me what it meant to love. He was the first person who made me feel something real." Some guests let out awkward laughs. I froze. She kept going. "Miguel was also the one who took my virginity. It hurt, but he was very gentle with me. Wherever he is, I still have great affection for him." The silence that followed was absolute. No one moved. Not even the waiters knew what to do. I was still standing there in the middle of the dance floor, staring at the illuminated wall, feeling the blood drain from my body. I swear I tried to move, but I couldn't. My body felt locked, my muscles tight, my breath stuck. It was like I was watching everything from outside myself, unable to react. My mind went blank. It was too absurd, so out of place, that my brain simply refused to process it. The next image appeared. This time, it was a man in a dress shirt, taking a selfie in an office. At the top, it read, "Marty, my first job." Geraldine giggled before speaking. "Oh, Marty," she said playfully. "If he hadn't cheated on me, he'd be the one marrying me today." Some guests let out uncertain chuckles, but the sound quickly died. She continued, oblivious to the discomfort. "Marty taught me everything. He taught me how to truly love, and also how to hate. It still hurts to talk about him, but in the end, he's the reason I'm here." She paused, looked at me, and added with a laugh. "Because he taught me amazing techniques in bed, and that's why Norman fell in love with me." Ha ha ha. No one reacted. The silence was so heavy you could hear the projector humming. I felt my face burning, a suffocating mix of shame, anger, and disbelief. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, that she was saying all of that in front of all our friends, our families, my parents, my coworkers. Some guests looked away, others remained frozen, unsure of how to react. I saw my mother cover her mouth in horror, and my father stare at the floor with an expression of complete disbelief. I still couldn't move, I just listened, just watched, until the third image appeared. This time, another man showed up on the screen. The caption read, "Sam, the impossible work crush." Geraldine took a deep breath, adjusted the microphone, and began to speak. "Sam, well, he was..." But she never finished the sentence. Something inside me simply snapped. "Enough!" I shouted with all the strength I had. The sound echoed through the hall. The music stopped instantly. Everyone turned to me. Geraldine flinched, lowered the microphone, and looked at me with surprise and confusion. "What is it, love?" she asked, as if she truly didn't understand the gravity of what she was doing. "It's just a little tribute. What's wrong with that?" "What's wrong?" I repeated, my voice trembling with rage and humiliation. "Have you lost your mind? What the hell do you think you're doing?" I walked toward her without thinking, my whole body shaking. I grabbed the projector and threw it to the floor. The impact was loud. The device shattered, the lamp went out, and the connected laptop fell backward, hitting the ground with a metallic crash. Some guests screamed, others stepped back in fear. "You're an idiot!" I yelled, my voice cracking with pain. "How could you possibly think this was a good idea?" Geraldine didn't move. It was as if only in that moment she finally understood the magnitude of what she had done. I was breathing heavily, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I looked around and saw everyone's horrified faces. My mother was crying. My father's fists were clenched. My friends stared at me, unsure of what to do. "This wedding is over," I declared, raising my voice. "Get out. All of you, leave." Silence hung in the air for a few seconds, until some people slowly started getting up. Others approached me, trying to calm me down. One of my best friends, Logan, rushed over and placed a hand on my shoulder. "Man, come on," he said in a calm tone. "Let's take a break." 3 other friends came to help him. My parents also came toward me. I could barely stand. My legs were shaking, my vision blurry. As they tried to pull me away, Geraldine took a step toward me. Her face was pale, her eyes filled with tears, but she was still holding the microphone. "Love," she said, getting closer, "I'm sorry. I didn't think it was such a big deal, but calm down, we can go on. I love you." My mother stepped in front of her. Her voice echoed through the hall. "Stay away. Don't you dare come near him. Leave. Forget my son forever." Geraldine ignored the warning, kept walking toward me, and held my face with both hands. Her fingers were cold, trembling. "Love, please, forgive me. It was a misunderstanding, that's all. We can continue the ceremony." I pushed her hand away abruptly. You're a bitch, I said, my voice broken. Get out. She shuddered, but instead of stepping back, she said something that left me completely frozen. But love, if we had invited them, none of this would have happened. At that moment, I heard a scream behind her. You heard him, you bitch? Get out. It was my older sister, Tina. I hadn't seen her approach, but suddenly she was there, walking with firm, furious steps. She grabbed Geraldine by the hair and yanked her hard, turning her around. Before anyone could stop her, she slapped Geraldine so hard the sound echoed through the hall. Geraldine fell to the floor, maybe unconscious, maybe just stunned. Her parents, who hadn't said a single word until then, rushed to help her, but they didn't try to defend her. They looked as confused and ashamed as everyone else. My friends grabbed me by the arms and led me out of the hall. A few meters away, there was a wooden cabin we had rented as a resting area for the newlyweds. They practically carried me there, because my legs no longer worked. I remember everything in flashes. Logan placing a bottle of water in my hands. My mother stroking my hair and whispering, "It's okay, son, it's over." My father was talking to the others, asking them not to take photos, begging everyone to turn off their phones. I heard everything in a distorted way, as if I were underwater. The voices sounded distant, blurry. I could only see lights and shadows. My chest felt tight, my hands numb, and every time I tried to speak, only a broken gasp came out. I don't know how long I stayed like that, maybe an hour, maybe two, until I finally managed to breathe more calmly. The party, of course, was over. The guests had already left. My parents decided to take me home. I didn't argue, I just nodded silently. During the drive, I stared out the window without saying a single word. The night was completely dark. My suit clung to my body, drenched in sweat. I felt such a deep mix of shame and emptiness that I could barely keep my head up. When we arrived, my parents helped me inside. I sat on the couch and just stayed there, staring at nothing. Everything was silent. Geraldine didn't call that night, nor the next day. And while I tried to sleep, all that came to my mind was that white screen with golden letters and the sentence that started everything. A tribute to my ex-boyfriends. I still couldn't believe it had really happened. It's been 3 days since that night, 3 days since my life completely changed. And even though time has moved forward, inside my head everything is still frozen in that moment, in that room lit by the projector, with everyone's eyes on me and that absurd sentence on the screen, a tribute to my ex-boyfriends. I can't sleep properly. Every time I close my eyes, I see Geraldine smiling with the microphone in her hand, talking about them as if it were something normal, beautiful, even. I wake up sweating, heart racing, reliving the humiliation, the silence, the feeling of being trapped in front of everyone, unable to move. I cried more than I'd like to admit. Sometimes silently, sometimes screaming from sheer helplessness. It's hard to accept that the woman I planned to share my life with, the one I dreamed of having children with, building a future with, was capable of something like that. I haven't returned to work. The day after the ceremony, I called my boss and asked for time off. I told him I needed a break, that I was going through a complicated personal situation. He didn't ask for details, but from his tone I could tell he already knew what had happened. At this point, probably everyone knew. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. My message inbox was full of notifications, friends, coworkers, even distant acquaintances, all saying the same things. Man, I'm so sorry. It's a shame it ended like that. We're here for you, brother. Some even sent screenshots and comments I didn't even dare to open. I don't want to know what people are saying about me. I don't want to relive that night. I stayed a few days at my parents' house. They insisted I stay longer, saying I wasn't ready to be alone yet. But after the third day, I felt I needed to return. Not out of strength, but because I needed to try to move on, even if it was step by step. I told them I would be okay, that I just wanted to rest in my own place. My mother hesitated, looked deeply into my eyes, and asked, "And what if she shows up?" "She won't," I replied, exhausted. She already understood. Or at least, that's what I believed. When I got home, something felt strange right away. The door wasn't locked. My heart sped up. I thought maybe a friend or family member had stopped by to check on me. But as soon as I opened the door, the familiar scent of Geraldine's perfume hit me. There she was. Sitting on the living room couch, wrapped in a blanket, with a bowl of popcorn on her lap and a movie playing on the TV as if nothing had ever happened. When she saw me, she smiled with absurd naturalness. "Love," she said softly as she stood up. "I've been waiting for you for days. Please, we need to talk." I stood still for a few seconds. I didn't know if I should scream, cry, or simply turn around and walk away. But the words came out on their own. "Get out. Leave." She took a step toward me, still calm. "Love, we're alone now. You don't have to pretend to be tough. I know you don't want me to go. You still love me." I stared at her in silence. "Geraldine, you don't understand anything," I said, my voice trembling, not from fear, but from contained rage. "You destroyed me in front of everyone." She shook her head and came closer. "I didn't mean to hurt you. That was just a consequence of your actions. I only wanted to close a cycle, love. I even talked to some of my ex-boyfriends and they confirmed they would come. It was going to be symbolic, beautiful." I looked at her, incredulous. It was like listening to someone completely disconnected from reality. "Are you insane, Geraldine?" I stepped toward her. "You're crazy. A complete idiot. You have no brain, no sense of anything. Did you really think that was a good idea?" She started crying, but her tears meant nothing to me. "Love, I love you. Please, don't talk to me like that," she said, taking another step and trying to touch my arm. "Look, let's relax, lie down with me, we'll fix this our way. You know, the best part of a couple's fight is the reconciliation." She said that with a timid smile and suddenly began taking her clothes off. First the sweater, then the shirt, and she stepped toward me, trying to hug me. I felt a deep disgust, a type of revulsion I had never felt toward anyone. "You disgust me, Geraldine," I said, looking straight into her eyes. "I wouldn't touch you with a damn stick. You have no idea how much repulsion I feel for you, for your body. I want you to leave and never come back." She froze halfway through undressing, staring at me with tear-filled eyes. "Don't say that," she whispered. "You don't feel that way, I know it. You're hurt, but you still love me." I didn't answer. I grabbed her arm firmly and guided her toward the door. She tried to resist, not with force, but with pleading. "Norman, please, don't do this. We can fix it, I swear." I opened the door and, without looking at her, gently pushed her outside. She stumbled a bit, then turned to me with her face drenched in tears. "Love, don't leave me like this. I love you. I love you," she screamed, pounding on the door over and over, sobbing between each word. I could hear her voice breaking, until it slowly faded into silence. I didn't open. I didn't say anything. I just let myself slide down to the floor, leaning my back against the door, listening to the sound of my own heartbeat, loud, uneven, chaotic. I don't know how long I stayed there, until everything finally went completely silent. Update. It's been 2 months since that day. I haven't heard from Geraldine, not a single call, not a message, nothing. At first, I thought she would show up, insist, come to ask for forgiveness or try to justify the unjustifiable. But no. She simply disappeared. And, in a way, I'm grateful for that. Going back to my routine hasn't been easy. People still look at me with pity when they see me on the street or at work. Some pretend they don't know anything, but their eyes give them away. I've had to listen to comments disguised as comfort, sentences like, "Everything happens for a reason. At least you found out before having kids." I appreciate the intention, but there is no real comfort for something like this. Sometimes I catch myself wondering how a person can destroy something so big in a matter of minutes. How a single act, a foolish idea, can erase years of trust, love, and respect. I don't hate her anymore. But I also don't remember her fondly. When I think of Geraldine, I feel nothing, just an emptiness, as if it were someone else's story, something I was merely told. The house still carries traces of her. A sweater in the closet, a forgotten perfume in the bathroom, a mug with her name on it. Sometimes I stop in front of these objects and ask myself, at what point did she lose her sense of what was right and wrong? Maybe I'll never understand. I've been trying to keep my mind busy with other things, work, the gym, walks, reading. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But little by little, life moves on. And although it still hurts, at least it doesn't paralyze me anymore. My parents are still worried, but they understand I need space. My sister Tina calls me almost every day. She still feels guilty for hitting Geraldine, although deep down, we all know no one blames her for it. Not even me. I don't know if I would have acted differently. The truth is that that wedding marked the end of much more than a relationship. It was the end of an illusion, the end of the version of myself who believed that love was enough. Today I know it isn't. Love isn't enough. You need respect, empathy, common sense, and above all, boundaries. When one person loses them, what's left is only the ruin of what could have been. I don't know if I'll ever get married again. I don't even know if I'll ever be able to trust like that again. But at least now I understand something I didn't before. Love isn't proven through grand gestures, or pretty words, much less through absurd tributes. Love is proven in the details, in consideration, in not humiliating the other, in not using someone's trust as a stage for showmanship. Geraldine was the most painful mistake of my life. But also my greatest lesson. And as much as it still hurts to admit, that wedding, tragic as it was, marked the beginning of something new. My life without her.
Reddit Relics comment. In the end, she actually got what she wanted, to be the center of attention. She just forgot she became the main attraction of her own disaster. This story proves that love without respect means nothing. The guy was torn apart on the worst day of his life because someone confused ego with maturity. Sometimes losing the right person hurts, but losing the wrong one is a